All right, we've done the nice introduction video, and now I want to spend a little bit more time wordsmithing, if you will, giving examples of what confidence intervals allow us to say. It should be a little bit shorter, and let's look at a couple interpretations. So we're going to think back to the last example where we took a survey and found that 48%, approximately, from our sample, 48%, of HR professionals use social networking sites to research job applicants. And then we found some sort of thing that I referred to as a confidence interval. We haven't really unpacked this very much, but we expected that 95% of the time, our sample would be between 0.46, 46%, and 0.50, 50%. So we're going to generalize this to the future for confidence intervals. So does this tell us, did we just, and why or why not, did we just find that 48% of all HR professionals use social networking sites to research job applicants? Did we do that? Well, no, we didn't. We found that 48% of the ones that we surveyed did. We found that the sample proportion was 0.48, but this is claiming that P equals 0.48. We don't know what P is. P is the population proportion. We only looked at a sample. We only have a sample proportion, so we think it should be close to that. We had a pretty big sample size, but we don't know this. Okay, so, right, we only know P hat is 48%. We don't know what P is. All right. So, letter B, what about the second one? It's probably true that 48% of all HR professionals use social networking sites, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, that's not exactly true. It's a little closer. But again, we're not saying it's probably true that P is this value. We know P hat is this value, but nah, that's still not really what we're saying here. What about, we don't know exactly what proportion of all HR professionals do this, but we know that it's between 46% and 50%. So what's wrong with this one? We said that 95% of the time it should have been between these two numbers, but we don't know this, right? We don't know. This is the problem here. We're 95% sure, but we don't know it. Letter D. We don't know exactly what proportion of all HR professionals do this, but it's probably between 46% and 50%. Is that what we said? Is that what this tells us? Yeah, we'd expect 95% of the time for it to be between those two things. So yeah, I'd say that's true. Probably, we are 95% sure. Let's write it as a percent sure. Yeah, this is fine. This is okay. We do know this. This is a valid conclusion. And we can even improve our conclusion in letter E. Letter E, when I say interpret confidence intervals, letter E is really what I'm looking for. This is what we're really doing in this unit. We are 95% confident that between 46% and 50% of all HR professionals do this. Okay? We're 95% confident that P is in this interval. Okay, so this gets like 3 check marks or something. Letter D was good, but E is better. So check, check, check. Okay? So another way of doing it, again, this is happy, this is great. Do this on your homework. Another way of looking at it, a more technical way of looking at it that we won't do too much, but I want you to expose you to is letter F. Letter F is also true. If we took a ton of samples, we only did one right here. We took one sample. We found that 48% of our sample did this. But if we took a bunch of different samples, each one would have their own sample proportion P hat. We could use each of those P hats to generate their own confidence intervals. So if we took a bunch of samples, sampling is random, right? We'd get a whole bunch of confidence intervals. Well, 95% of these confidence intervals would contain P. 95% of these confidence intervals would contain the proportion of HR professionals who do this. Okay, so that's really what confidence intervals are in like technicality. But for our purposes, this is how we will be talking about it. Okay, so when I find confidence intervals, we're going to say we are 80% confident, 90% confident. Remember, it does depend on your confidence level, which we'll talk more about in the future. But yeah, maybe we'll be 80% confident that our proportion is between some two numbers, or 99% confident that our proportion is between two numbers. That's what confidence intervals are all about. So this is how we do our conclusions. This is what your conclusion should look like, letter E. And we'll do more of actually the calculations and seeing what some of these other terms come up as. All this stuff. We'll be doing more of this in the next one. All right. Let me know if you have any questions and have a good rest of your day.